Okay, what's up, everybody? So in this video, I'm an INFP, and this is my friend Colton. He's an INFJ. We've been having these weekly conversations for almost a full year now. I don't know if you remember. We actually started like early to mid-January.
A year.
Yeah. Through the virtual coach program. It's kind of like a mastermind program. And we connected through that, kind of working on our coaching skills. And it's kind of continued into, I think, a lot of great conversations. Colton often helps me with marketing stuff because I'm pretty bad at it, but I'm getting a lot better because of that. And I decided, to ask if I could record a video of just us talking so that you guys can get a little bit of, insight or awareness of what an INFP and INFJ conversation can feel like, as well as some of the ideas and concepts that we talk about later in the video. So we're recording this after, just to bring in the intro in the front. And throughout the conversation, we talked about personality type, clarifying the cognitive functions, as well as self-work, development, and marketing, and imposter syndrome a little bit at the end, I think. So if you want to introduce yourself a little bit and tell us what you're about, Colton.
Sure. What is up, everyone? So as Matt said, I'm an INFJ. We met about a year ago through virtual coach, and it was actually when I started learning coaching. So right now I'm a coach, and I've been doing it for about a year. And before that, I was doing a lot of digital marketing. I did a lot of freelance work, touching on different areas, whether it be the content aspect of it or paid advertising. So that's kind of my focus. And I think I've always been interested in like psychology and the cognitive function. So it's really fun to be able to have these conversations with Matt, as he's very knowledgeable about it, and enjoy the conversation.
You want to plug business or?
Yeah, you can check me out. You can go to coltonhicks.me. That is right now my main site, and have some content up on there, some information about me. But and you can also join my newsletter if you want. I release right now I'm doing one weekly newsletter. So it's going to be basically my biggest insight of the week as it relates to content specifically, but also sometimes marketing as a whole. So there you go.
Cool. All right. That's good.
Nothing much, man. Same old, same old. I'm trying to think what is new. Other than having tested with a different personality, but then it's funny because I did it the other day too, just kind of double check, and I went back to being an INFJ. So I was like, maybe it's just a fluke.
You always were. Yeah. Not ENFP.
No.
But you know about the cognitive functions now, right? The ENFP uses the other four cognitive functions.
That's why I thought it was weird.
Yeah. It's still got the NF part, which is half accurate. That's good. They are different. Different cognitive functions, and they come out in different ways. And especially just intuition, like how you use intuition is not how I use intuition, right? Just from our conversations, like I'm just like more ideas spread out. And I don't see that. Can you hear that?
What?
It's just my heater, I guess, but it's like really loud.
No, I don't hear anything. Not on my end, anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was reading somewhere too. I don't know the validity of it, but someone is saying that like if you're going through periods of stress, sometimes it's common for an INFJ to kind of type as an ENFP. I don't really know if that's true or not, or what that even means, but I thought maybe that could be because it was very specific. It's like ENFP, so I don't know. It's like all my shadow functions basically, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was interesting. Like I said, I'm back to being an INFJ, so it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, stress and the environment can pull on different facets of yourself. Um, you may need to feel more extroverted or more, you know, I don't want to say creative as in like the types aren't creative, but like um, I generate a lot of ideas type creativity, right? And if that's kind of like the expectation of you, then if you're in that for long enough, then you kind of play that role. So if you go fill out the test or whatever, then might come out more strongly.
Yeah, yeah. Me and my buddy were talking about this the other day, and he was like, "It's really easy to when you take those tests to kind of put what you kind of like idealize yourself to be rather than what you actually are." And he's like, "That's why like he's like I'd recommend you get a profiler to actually do it for you like live. It's way more accurate." I'm like, "Yeah, that makes sense."
Yeah,
I try not to overthink it, but I'm like, is this what I actually am, or is this what I want to be? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I get that a lot. Comments and stuff like, no, but I've tested out as ESTJ, ENFJ, ISN, INTJ, and then like 4 or 5 different ones. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the solution is just know thyself and learn the model. But as I said, easy to get into. You know, want
Yeah.
to know yourself at that level without, because people don't think, oh yes, I use extroverted feeling. Like that's, it's not just something that most people think.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
It's
guess you're
takes
learning
a
the
lot
whole thing.
to get to that. Takes a while to get there.
Well, yeah. I mean, am I really an INFP? Yeah. Like, I don't know. I think there's kind of a fun part of having a little bit of uncertainty.
Mm.
Me fully know this aspect of myself. If you tried on ENFP for a little while, I think you would be like, no, no.
I'm not even sure how I would try that on. How would I try that on? Well,
I think
P
first, like, read the descriptions, right?
kind of
And say, okay, so this is what I'm all about. I'm gonna go out there and be more proactive and more spontaneous
or
and
do stuff.
maybe and yeah, live more in the outer world of idea creation and bonding with people through that, inspiring inspiration.
I guess when I was reading through it, I found, for some weird reason, I found a lot of similarities. Though I was like, this kind of sounds like someone that I am, I guess, but I know it's like completely different, so I don't know. It's just I think it's interesting how I don't know, we type of something and it's kind of like the grass is always greener, right? It's like I want to be this thing, I want to be this personality type. We just don't like what we are a lot of the time. And I think that may have been also what it is. I was like, oh yeah, something new, and then I'm like, oh wait, I'm not that thing actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they have the similarities in terms of NF, as I said before, and that's generally somebody focuses a lot on ideas and people. ideas and intuition, possibilities, connecting, the dots and stuff, and then feeling people in whatever way. And sometimes they can kind of, the cognitive functions, the dominant auxiliary, can kind of like fuse in a way that looks like one of the other ones. So, like, I don't know, NI and FE, right? You put them together, and it can kind of feel like an introverted feeling thing, like, because you're getting these internal insights into how people are working, right? And that can kind of feel like that I don't know, alignment that comes from introverted feeling. Or like, I know this person's motives, but it's you're seeing the FE stuff, you're seeing the relationships and the engagements and the interactions, and then you're getting an insight for how things are working out, right? As opposed to, in a more FI introverted feeling way, it would be more like, I see the person, and then I go into myself. I try to find like a similar experience when I was in a similar situation. And then I kind of go through all this collected, framework of, okay, in that situation, I had like this thing going on, this intention, this motivation. And then I kind of put that on the other person. And then I'm like, that's why they're acting this way, is because it like filters through myself first. And it gets a little, they're not silos, they're not just like, it's only introverted feeling time, only extroverted feeling time, or whatever. Like it's all mixed up and just a model, but
sharing that resource with me for how, so my sixth function would be the introverted feeling, and I think it was a
personality hacker, yeah.
Podcast episode where they're talking about, for INFJs. Well, I think there was another type as well, but for specifically INFJs, how you can tap into that sixth function, the introverted feeling. It's kind of like a pathway to getting back that extroverted feeling. And I don't know, I was thinking like that could have possibly been it too, since I have been doing a lot of introvert feeling type stuff. Maybe I was just kind of really pressing on that, which sort of brought those. Maybe in that moment, I was like, when I was actually taking the test again, I was like, well, I resonate more with this and this right now, just because I've been doing so much of this like inner
exploring yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So that could be another reason as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
But I also don't know if I understand properly from what they were saying about how it actually works with like the sixth function, for me anyways, how that can actually be a path for, getting back in touch with the extroverted feeling. I'm not quite sure I understand. I think I kind of get it, but I don't know. Did you have a perspective on that?
I don't remember exactly what they said, but I know. So like, I'll relate it to myself first, introverted feeling style, and then we can kind of like explore the possibilities for how it can connect. So for me, like, I use extroverted intuition for my auxiliary, and introverted intuition my sixth. And so I naturally have the tendency to just ping new ideas, to want to more like spontaneously explore something. And that it causes this area of effect, like breadth of, new possibilities, but it's a lot lighter. It's like, it's not as deep, right? It's not as deep in focus, kind of like what we talked about before. It's more expansive. But mainly in the past year, since studying hypnosis, and before that I was doing some meditation. I think that was kind of like the start of it, of getting more into like introverted intuition and like quieting my mind, like slowing that like idea battery generation kind of thing, and picking like an intent saying, okay, unconscious mind, this is what I want to focus on, and just kind of letting it marinate and letting that idea come out. Kind of like what we were talking about with the incubation and hatching stages, right? For me, it's like, I'm going to make it hatch. Like, I'm going to shake it until the thing comes out, expert intuition. Instead of just kind of waiting. And so I know I've grown a lot in terms of my perspective, but my cognitive functions and just myself in general by knowing a little bit better when I should create more ideas and when I should let them crystallize. And through self-hypnosis, through getting more in touch with the unconscious mind, and through meditation, it's really helped me kind of like slow that down and find the inner, deeper essence of a lot of those things. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think, for you, I mean, the first thing that kind of came up was that getting more in touch with how you feel, being more in touch with who you are and your identity.
Well, real quick before we dive into that, well, how would you define that? Like getting in touch with how like what does that look like? Because like to me, that almost seems like meditation. You know what I mean? Like getting in touch, getting in the body. That's kind of like a lot of. So you speak of that like in terms of like the introverted intuition.
Yeah.
Experience a lot of like meditation as like an introverted feeling type of dynamic. So I guess what would you consider to be the distinction between the two?
So sensing and intuition are what you called irrational functions, and thinking and feeling are what are called rational functions. So it's not like it doesn't make sense and it does make sense type of irrational rational, but it's like what comes for sensing and intuition, right? It's like the camera, the lens. Like, what you choose this lens, kind of, you choose the introverted intuition lens, you choose the extroverted sensing lens, or whatever it is, and it picks up. It's kind of like a thermal filter or something like that, right? And
Gotcha.
whatever comes in there is kind of just in there, right? But thinking and feeling are like the editing programs. So like you gather this data, you gather this, and you put it on your computer, and you get to zoom in and then like kind of clean it up and clarify it. You get to get rid of some of the smudges and blurs, and put some filters on it, right? Post-processing kind of style. So
Sure.
introverted intuition is kind of like going into the mind. And I think, this is, I'm not an introverted intuitive, like dominant or auxiliary. But it's more of like possibly setting your intention internally with what you want the outcome to be, perhaps, and then kind of disconnecting and letting that kind of insight and then come out. We were talking before about like the tree, kind of like zooming in different layers of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That might be kind of similar to what I'm trying to get at. Because I remember before, like how I explained it and how you saw it, the metaphors didn't quite connect, but what we were both talking about was the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and introverted feeling is more of like I need to figure out who I am. Like I need to put energy into internally kind of putting the puzzle pieces together. Saying, okay, these are my values. The time that I did this thing before, I need to like dissect that and pull out from it what is my like identity statement, my essence that came from that, in terms of like making sense of who I am, instead of making sense of an idea, perhaps. if that makes any sort of bit of clarification.
I guess my understanding of feeling functions is like, I guess I think of them differently in terms of thinking. I almost feel like um, it's like not really conceptual in nature. Like, so for instance, when I like conceptual, when I think of feeling, so like an introverted feeling would be sort of getting in touch with how I maybe feel in terms of like the sensations inside my body, and I don't really emphasize the conceptual or mental aspect of it. It's more of just like, how does it make me feel? How does like, is there tension in the body? Like, is there tenseness in the body? Things like that. I don't know if I really. So is that kind of how is that how you understand it to be, or is it, or do you still see it as like a conceptual type of process of like, okay, this is who I am conceptually. This is my self concept at a value level.
Because I'm an intuitive also, like that's kind of the realm that I naturally use to make sense of the feeling stuff. Does that make sense? So it's not like I definitely struggle more going into the sensing aspects, right? So an intuitive who's a feeler is going to have a different connection to feeling in a lot of ways than a sensor who is a feeler.
Gotcha. So the perceptive modes influence how you interpret the predictive or judgmental modes or whatever you,
Yeah. Like if your lens has this filter on it that you're seeing the world, through, then what you edit later, what you put into the processing thing is going to be a bit different.
Gotcha.
Right? And there are a lot of connections with what you said, but it gets kind of muddy.
I did a very
sensing comes in there, and it gets like, what is internally going on? What am I feeling? Fatigue or hunger or whatever, these kind of internal sensations, and tying that, connecting, reflecting on the past and how have things kind of changed and whatnot.
And that's an introverted thing you said?
That would be introverted because it's that internal collected experiences which you're reviewing, as well as what's going on kind of within your body.
So that's interesting, because I feel like that's more alignment with what I've been doing with the work that I've been doing with the inner work type stuff. Because I feel like I'm more getting in touch with my body, which seems more introverted sensing, not so much introverted feeling. Maybe it's a combination of the two. Like you said, it's like not, in silos. But
yeah, it gets funny.
Okay, excuse my intuition, zooming in. So getting back to the...
No. Yeah. That's good.
That's a good sort of meta example of how my driver function works.
Yeah. Like, even, I would generally, I normally say, okay, introverted intuition is the mind, essentially. Extroverted intuition is the body. But it's getting more experiences physically through your senses, taking more in, a breadth of things. Whereas I would consider introverted sensing to be more of like your internal, as I said, like fatigue and those kind of like little shifts of a bunch of, I don't even know how to word it because I'm so bad at introverted sensing and extroverted sensing.
Felt sensation.
Yeah. But like I would, we normally say adrenaline is extroverted sensing, right? And I can see how those are like almost the same kind of sensation, right?
Yeah, I guess it's a matter of the perspective, right? Like,
yeah, there are little short codes as well. What's that?
I was just gonna say, like the adrenaline could give you like maybe an introverted sensation that you could sense, feel, or whatever, but then also it would manifest in different ways externally as well. I guess, I don't know.
Like when I think of an INJ or an ESP getting into meditation, I think of them connecting to that other polarity. So an introverted intuitive connecting to extroverted sensing polarity, right? By being more present, perhaps, with your body and with those sensations. And an extroverted sensing dominant, like an ESP, stopping and kind of disconnecting from the body and going into kind of the ether of the mind. Right? For me, extroverted intuition and introverted sensing, when I moved to Japan, right, or when I moved to Korea or whatever, like it was about collecting new pieces. I was just like picking up all the pieces of the puzzle as much as I could, right? Just exploring all these new things happening all the time. That's how I was connecting the dots. I was putting myself into new contexts and trying to like assemble the puzzle. Talking a lot about puzzles because I do a lot of puzzles with my daughter. And through doing that, like then I'm capturing these experiences and I'm like reflect on them later through introverted sensing. Right? That's the main way that I consider introverted sensing and extroverted intuition. But also, like because of that, I've oriented my life around things that I'm comfortable with, physically comfortable with. And like I drink the same coffees every day. Like I have the same kind of routine every day because it kind of makes me at peace physically. Like I feel like, okay, I don't need to worry about, is this going to be some crazy thing that I've never eaten before that I'm not going to like? In terms of like bodily stuff, I've had knee problems for a long time, and I didn't realize it. Like I didn't like my knee would hurt, right? But then I would just kind of forget about it, and I wouldn't pay attention to the little signs that my body was giving me.
Mm-hmm.
And until it got to like a severe level, and that's because it's sensing stuff is a weakness for me. Right? It's just not the place that I live. Right? So noticing the little shifts along time of what my body is doing, introverted sensing, is not something I pick up on easily. Nor is just being in the present. Like I used to go to like big reggae events and stuff like that, like 30,000 people. 300,000? I don't know. It was a full baseball stadium, and the ground floor was all full of people too. And my friends got us in. We were front row, standing, but we were right in there. And like it's so hard for me to just be there, present in the moment, and be like, I'm gonna let loose. I'm gonna like just kind of be a part of this whole situation and blend with the music and the people and stuff like that. Right? There's always like a detached part. One because of just introversion in general, but also because of extroverted sensing. It kind of feels like a weird world for me. Did that help at all? Like those kind of...
Yeah, I mean, it gives me a more understanding of how like the typing would sort of define these different functions. Um, so that being said, then how would that relate to? So kind of going back, I guess, to the main thread of like my sixth function. How would that be a pathway into developing more of a extroverted type feeling dynamic?
Um, I think And this is what I kind of thought was feeling, right? So you have the heart, the domain of the heart, right? And because I use a lot of like kind of extroverted feeling is offensive. It's more proactive, more like I'm going to just get in there, read the situation, and create the harmony outside, right? Introverted feeling is more defensive. It's introverted, so it's taking the heart and it's kind of like going within yourself and subjectively understanding it more. Okay, so I think with anything, if you let's say extroverted feeling is your strength, by at least getting some knowledge about introverted feeling, you're going to help kind of balance that whole situation out, right? You're going to kind of give more fidelity to it and see more facets of it. And more specifically, like it's being more in touch with who you are, your identity, why you do the things that you do based on your motivations, based on your values, is going to let you more easily notice when another person is going through something that you've already kind of post-processed and figured out about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because like it's having another like touch point to better improve an interaction with other people or to better read the culture, the room, or whatever it is.
Right. Like if I went through some form of like depression, it's easier to identify that in somebody else because I've already gone through the experience, I've maybe overcome it, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Is that
You
kind
have a subjective, objective, yeah. You have your own personal kind of ability to go into yourself, to tap into who you are, and then bridge that out to other people.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes sense. Let's see.
Said that at the start.
What?
No, like I should have just said that at the start. That would have cut through a lot of that.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of it was me facilitating it just because, yeah, part of me just likes to go deep, as you know. Um, I've noticed that too. Like, I like subthreads. You know, like we'll have like a main conversation, a main thread. Then I like to go in different subthreads. So over time, because I noticed that I do that, I've gotten pretty good at like always, okay, what was the main thing? What was the main thread? And just kind of always circling back.
Yeah,
I didn't do that.
That
Rabbit holes.
when you you tied it back to introverted feeling. I was like, oh yeah, that's what we were talking about. I was because I go this way, right? I go that way.
Okay.
Already.
Give that like, okay, wait. This is the initial thing we were talking about. Okay, where are we going? Yeah.
Yeah, that's true for me.
So, anyways, dude, that was enough about me. How are you doing?
Okay, I've had a fever the past couple days and
Oh, really?
Sore throat and stuff. I think I'm better now, which is good.
See, look like you're about to pass out.
Well, besides being sleepy, waking up before 7, you know.
Hopefully it's not fever induced.
Maybe. No. I'll find out after. Yeah, other than that, things are good. Just the usual stuff. Been doing some like solo play testing this game that I'm making to see if I could, I don't know, record it and release it on YouTube.
What game?
But it's you know how I did like the Pirate Tales one with the animal stuff. This is more of like it's a superhero kind of version of that. It's kind of more like a Marvel type thing.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, but like I'm watching a guy who does it very well on YouTube, and he's got like 4 different cameras set up, and he's like looking to each one and changing his voices, and I'm like, oh man, that is so not who I am right now. Like,
Well, it looks like you have to do like a lot of acting, almost like pretty much acting skills to be able to pull that off, or at least practice your acting skills.
that is what he's doing, changing his voice and remembering that, okay, when I'm speaking in this character, I should look this way. Speaking this character, I should look this way. Like, just thinking about that made my ability to remember things like just cry.
It's probably somewhat inspiring though too. It's like that's pretty cool.
It is. Yeah, I've been watching them. I'm just like, damn, good.
Mm-hmm.
So, kind of the direction my mind has been going recently.
The game.
Yeah, with the game and with maybe content, keep things a little bit more interactive and fun, and we get to watch different characters because they're based off the cognitive functions.
Cool.
Yeah.
Has there been any insights over the past week? Any noting, worth remembering or sharing?
In terms of this game, is I think the biggest thing, and it comes back to this quite often, is that speed of implementation. Man, I just need to just play it more, so I get the feedback, and then I'm like, oh, that doesn't work. Let me just adjust. Instead of, I'm going to think through this a lot more. I'm going to put more time, more energy into thinking through this, and then not actually playing it. And then when I play it, it's still an issue. Like if I just played it, took notes, you get a lot more feedback.
Yeah,
and I think that ties to everything. Maybe yours too.
Yeah, I can relate. Yeah, I'm trying to get back into the content game, and I know it goes through my head because I haven't really done much content in the past couple of weeks. I'm always like, yeah, implement, even if it's not what you think is the most amazing piece of content, just do it.
Yeah. Noticed. I remember thinking, I'm like, I haven't seen anything from Colton.
I always do the email newsletter. That's something that I've been staying consistent with. So that goes out once a week. And I'm trying to get back into writing longer form content. So this week I'm actually still working on a piece of content. I haven't been doing any of the Facebook group type stuff or anything like that. I'm kind of slowly getting back into that just because, I don't know, man, I just haven't been feeling it. I think I got into the habit of doing like those Facebook Lives and doing things quite consistently. And then I kind of got to a place where I was like, I don't know, it just became habitual, but not in a good way. It became like I need to do this, or like I don't know. I feel like it was coming from the wrong place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't coming from a place of inspiration. It was coming from like, oh, I need to do this. It's like a desperation kind of dynamic, and I don't know. I didn't like that. I didn't feel like it was a good place to create content from, and yeah, that's why I haven't really done much with my group since.
So how do you deal with that issue? Like, is it taking time from it? Is it like intentionally processing something about it? Is it?
Yeah. The story that I have about that is that because I've been doing a lot of inner processing, integration type work, a lot of the inner work stuff, a part of me feels like it is it's kind of a process that I need to go through and be okay with just not like feeling the need to do it. I don't know. It's interesting because I'm the type of person, being an INFJ, who feels like there always needs to be like this purpose, right? There's always needs to be a sense of purpose and meaning to everything that I do. I think a part of what I've been realizing about myself is that purpose, just like anything, can be used to hurt you or help you. Basically, it's like if you feel attached or the need to do something, like you know, I don't know, the need for alcohol, the need for something to make you feel good about yourself. It's, it's not too much different from the need to have a purpose. It's like basically the assumption is that like I'm not good enough unless I have a purpose, right? Instead of just being good by default. So I think a big part of my personality anyways is that like even from an early age, there always needed to be this sense of purpose and like meaning to everything that I did. And it was almost like a self-righteous, like the movie character that like I resonate with growing up as a kid was like Spider-Man, basically. With Spider-Man, he'd always like push away good things in his life, like Mary Jane or whatever, because he had to always pursue this high purpose and do what was right and help people and all this stuff. And I think I resonated with that character growing up. And I think I'm still sort of perpetuating that identity now, like today. And I realize that, and that's why I'm intentionally being okay with not going to my Facebook group and doing all these things for a high purpose. I'm just like, you know what? I want to be able to sort of come to a place within myself where I'm okay if I don't have this like super ambitious, high standard purpose. I just want to be okay with just being me and just doing what I got to do. And then from there, kind of let a purpose come to surface a little bit more from a place of inspiration, rather than like I just need it or else I'm not good enough. That's kind of how I've been experiencing it recently. So I don't know if it's right or wrong, but it's just kind of the process that I'm going through.
I think there is a right or wrong. It's all just kind of shades of gray and stuff. I'm like, well, which one, like, with all of your possibilities that you see, all the different options, right? Which is the best one to take? That's kind of how we all work with everything. Is we decide from our array of options, and if you're feeling this way about the thing and not feeling inspired to do it or whatever, then I think that's probably a time that you do need to step back, kind of locate yourself like a GPS, right? And figure out, okay, is this what I want to do? Is this where I want to be? Where am I, first of all, right? And then kind of like pinpoint, okay, this is the place that I want to go because now I know where I am. Right? The direction is going to change based on where you are to get to your ultimate goal. I still think, just by knowing you, that whatever you do, it's going to be, it is going to have a high purpose at the end, and it is going to be this kind of like impactful thing to their business or whatever way you shift it there. It might not always be marketing, but it might. So I think it's going to serve the same end goal in some way.
Yeah, I'd agree. Are you getting the Matrix? Yeah. Hold on one second. Let me make sure my Wi-Fi is good.
Just kind of wait it out.
Yeah, I think that's the way. Because mine seems alright. I mean, there's nothing else I can really do. Yeah. Yeah, dude. I don't know. It's weird. Yeah, anything can be used to hurt you or help you. That's one of the big insights that I've had recently. Even things that seem good.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. In terms of like, like that, the introverted feeling thing that we were talking about before. I need to know who I am, right? And then extroverted thinking is taking the actions to get there, right? In that kind of like simple explanation, a lot of INFPs are like just so overly focused on who am I? I need to understand myself deeper so that whatever I do, when I do take actions, eventually down the road, it will be completely aligned with who I am. But if it's only focused on that one point and you're not doing the other stuff, then it kind of like it becomes a harmful assertion of like I need to figure out myself. I think it's good, but there comes a point when you do it too much that it's just like, well, you gotta take some actions too. And so even something as I have a bias, as something as good as figuring out who you are on that deep level, I think that's an amazing thing, can be harmful, kind of like related to what you were saying. Also, like, how much time am I going to spend analyzing this and trying to understand all these interconnected patterns? That's good. But then at a point, it becomes not good, right? It becomes overly done. And then you need to just take some actions. You need to just get into the situation. And that's with everything. I mean, even water, you can kill yourself by drinking too much water. So.
Jeez, be careful out there, kids. Water.
Don't drink too much water.
Just taken out of context, you're like, what are you talking about? Don't drink water?
Get milk, drink your homework.
Yeah, it's one of those you kind of get in the spiritual world. People they refer to that as like your relationship to the thing. Like, are you placing a condition for like why you can't accept where you're at, or self-acceptance or whatever? And both good and bad things can be a condition that you place for yourself as to why you're not good enough. Right? And having a purpose, I've noticed, is a really prominent one with me, because like, I mean, I don't even know a time where I wasn't always thinking about that. I probably even earlier, right? And it's like, it's something that has always driven me in business, and even things outside of business, but mostly business. It's like, it's always been like, am I doing this? Like, what's the reason like for why I'm doing this? Am I making an impact in the world, right? And I think I've just recently realized that it's become counterintuitively harmful, and I think which is why I've proactively been taking, like, I'm still creating content, but that's why I like what I'm doing. Like, I'm still creating it, but it's just very like minimal. It allows me to still do some extroverted type stuff and kind of learn and develop more of my writing and whatnot skills, but I'm not like going so crazy with it. And that gives me the time I need to just kind of detach from this need to always have purpose and meaning, which is, to most people, would be like, what are you talking about? But like, coming from someone like me, it's like, look, I've been doing this my whole life. This is something that I've thought probably since I was in my, my mother's womb.
Yeah, I was born into it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I've always thought about it, man. It's so weird.
I think also there are probably different ways of expressing that purpose, and in terms of like, yes, you could create more content, you could continuously kind of push that stuff out, and I'm gonna push this boulder up a hill, or you could also kind of refine it internally so that what you bring out is more impactful in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that, then the stuff that you do produce, even if it's not as frequent, could still serve the same purpose, right? Just in a more concise, consolidated way.
Yeah.
And also, gotta put your own life mask on first, right? on the airplane or whatever, right?
For a second, I thought that was a reference. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. Sorry, I realized I saw like kind of a
I was processing. I was like, wait, what does he mean?
on an airplane. If there's an accident or something,
22.
put your life mask on first before you put one on the other people. Then you can fulfill your functions.
Yeah.
Doing this stuff, right? And if you're in a bad situation, even myself this week, I was recording daily these O-card videos, and this week I was just like, I need to kind of take a couple days off, kind of refigure out what I'm doing and recoup my energy and stuff like that. And I ended up recording some throughout the day later, like just not right in the morning when I kind of felt more aligned and I had something kind of more, I thought, meaningful to deliver. That's the same thing. Just take your time, figure it out. The problem comes then with, at least for me, when it's like, no, I just need a little bit more time. Just need a little bit more time. And you just kind of slowly start sinking into the couch. I mean,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, yeah, same with me. Yeah, it becomes a challenge. It's like the nuance, man. It's hard. It's hard to, it's like you have that traditional that weight scale with the fulcrum and the beam on top of it, and you got like the strings with the plates attached to each side. It's like, trying to find a way to balance these polarities, because that's like, that's kind of where the magic happens.
yeah, in some ways. I mean, yeah, I find balance kind of funny. Because in terms of like, a lot of times people are like, I need balance in my life. I need to, and it happens. Somebody who drinks way too much alcohol or something like that, like they need to kind of rebalance themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like the idea behind a lot of the, individuation and kind of the personal growth stuff is kind of going into your strengths, finding your strengths and developing your strengths, which naturally creates an imbalance even more. I mean, within the cognitive functions, this is everywhere. It's like if you focus so much on introverted intuition, then that means you're not focusing on extroverted sensing. That's just what happens, right? It's the requisite of specialization. And so in some ways, it's like, I don't know, it's like I need to focus on this, develop this, my strength to the best, and still build a little bit, just a little bit of knowledge of what's going on out there. So it's not fully unbalanced, but it's like, it's still at an angle. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I guess like, yeah, I guess it depends on how you define balance. I think, yeah, like anything, it's very contextual. It's really depends on the context, right? Because like if you have like your scale is like this already, well, then you got to put a lot of weight up here. So that's like you're going to be focusing a lot of energy right here and not much on here. So it's like, yeah, it just really kind of depends on the situation, I suppose.
Yeah, that's something I think about a lot. When I'm like, to find a balance in my life or whatever.
One of your many ideas.
I suppose. I'll briefly touch on it and go to something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did want to say, and I found a quote that you quoted or, from Michael Simmons.
Which one?
Don't write for your role models. Write for your younger self. Your younger self wants what you figured out.
Mm-hmm.
I've been thinking about that a lot this week. Since reading.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one, huh? It's a good quote.
Yeah.
What's kind of your thinking on it?
Somebody else said something similar to this. how did he write it? I'm writing a paper right now, like a research paper, and with an ENTP and another INFJ. And I was thinking, like, who is the paper for, right? Like, if I'm writing to other people who have plenty of research knowledge and stuff like that, then I can talk about specific things, use specific jargon, and I can kind of skip over some explanations. But if the paper is for somebody who's just getting into this, or just kind of pick it up, same with YouTube content, same with content stuff as well, like, you need to alter what you're talking about for who it's for, right? And it comes back to defining the niche. But this was kind of an easier way of linking it back more to my YouTube content should be more for my younger self, or kind of different versions of myself, not making highly analytical, scientific explanations of the cognitive functions. Like, I don't see how that serves the purpose of what I'm trying to do. So writing to the younger version of myself is like, I'm lost and confused right now, to figure out myself so that I can take better actions, kind of what I was talking about before, but in whatever way that comes. So, yeah, making stuff for the younger version of myself, I just think is something that I need to keep ingraining and keep going over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the way you expressed that. I think I'd be interested to hear your opinion on the piece of content that I'm currently writing, because it pretty much touches on that. So I sent out that email last week, and then I really liked what I said. I liked what I said there, and I decided to expand upon it in like a longer form piece of content. So I'm kind of drilling down on that idea even further. So I'd be curious to know your thoughts. But yeah, like the whole idea of writing for your younger self, I compare it to when I look at like creating compelling and engaging content from a meta perspective. I look at it from two perspectives, like a formula. I look at authenticity and relatability as like the two variables that can help create the engaging and compelling content. And like when you ask yourself, what would my younger self think of this piece of content, or what would they want to know? I think it really drills down on that authenticity. It really allows you to tap into like what you're passionate about, what you're curious about, what you love. And then when you like sort of merge that with the relatability aspect of it, because you got to always think of like, well, what is their experience? They're not me, so what do they actually want? You can weave both of those together, then you can get some powerful content.
Isn't this what we've been talking about this whole time? About like FI and FE, like how FI helps FE, like authenticity helping relatability.
I suppose so. Creeped up on me a little bit. Didn't even realize. That's interesting. No, that is interesting.
Maybe that was my intention all along.
You just planted a seed in my brain, and now I'm like subconsciously writing content about about cognitive functions, and oh my goodness, that's funny. Just different terms.
There's another thing that comes with this, like in my hypnosis group, I made some comment that like the reason why I've studied this stuff in NLP and stuff is yes, because there is a self-fulfilling purpose, but I want to help other people too. But also I've kind of doubled up my efforts since having a child, and I think this is something that most people would go through. In terms of like, I want to give her all this knowledge, right? And so seeing her as kind of a younger version of myself, obviously she can't understand all this stuff right now, but kind of creating stuff for that younger version of myself, the younger aspects of myself, and like that. It's a very real situation for me. That's part of the reason why I'm trying to make these games and stuff too. And this framework is to create children's books, create games that other kids can play to learn about themselves and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So kind of keep going back to that.
Mm-hmm.
It's helpful for me. I just need to remember or not forget.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of also reminds me of, Russell Brunson's whole, I can't remember reading once about, basically he was talking to a false belief that a lot of people have towards like being experts, and a lot of people are like, have that imposter syndrome, and he referenced the movie Catch Me If You Can with DiCaprio, and he's basically talking about how the main character, you've seen it, right?
No, but I know of it well enough.
Okay. Have I talked to you about this before? Have I mentioned this before?
I'm not sure. Maybe.
Yeah, it's .com Secrets book, but was it .com Secrets or was it Expert Secrets? I can't remember the specific book, but he's basically talking about how, so the main character in that movie, the character that DiCaprio played, I forgot the name of the movie. He's actually based off a real character, like a real person.
Yeah.
And he was a con artist, and he like successfully played the part of like a professor. What else was he? Was it a lawyer?
Frank Abagnale. Yeah. Frank.
Airline pilot or co-pilot, one of the two. Like he did a lot of like some high level stuff as basically a con artist. But when he was caught, basically, he was asked like, "How are you able to pull these off?" And I think specifically they're asking, "How are you able to pull off being a professor?" And he said something along the lines of, all you needed to do was be one chapter ahead. And it's interesting because it's like, people are like, well, that's a con artist. How can you get a lesson from a con artist? But it's like, I think it's a good idea when you use it ethically, because basically when you're, that's sort of the reality when it comes to being an expert, because everyone thinks they need to be like the top 1%. But it's like, you just need to be the, 1 or 2 chapters ahead. And I think that corresponds nicely to this idea of creating content for your younger self. It's like, look a couple of chapters behind where you were and create content for the person that was in that chapter. And that's, yeah, I like that.
Just got you took the Reinvent course.
Mm-hmm.
Did you went through making all those different arcs of your story and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that would be a good exercise to do. Teaching, like specifically creating content for a you that was in a specific arc.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe you could, or intentionally create those characters, those versions of yourself, like through a marketing kind of lens.
Mm-hmm. As it relates to
creation kind of lens. Yeah, like when I didn't know how to write copy, this is that version of me, and you kind of go back to myself and kind of find my hero's journey through there. And then when you are creating content like that, you can specifically talk to that younger or a few chapters behind version of yourself.
Yeah, that is interesting. I'll have to hold that idea, play with it.
I guess like we should maybe just kind of wrap it up with, do you have something kind of implement for your next step? Or
I don't even remember what I remember. Trying to remember what we talked about.
the main. Oh yeah. Go on.
No, go for it. I'm so blank.
I was just thinking either like something personality type related or um, teaching to a younger version of yourself or your purpose in terms of taking a little break or whatever you're. But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's no big action stuff, I don't think. I think it's just kind of still doing what I'm doing. Um, Keep on consistently putting out those weekly newsletters as kind of like what I'm, really interested in doing right now. And I think, yeah, I got some good content coming through the pipeline. So just kind of keep on following through with that whole process. What about you?
I'm gonna try to continue to focus on that quote that we were talking about,
Mm-hmm.
and just keep going back intentionally and saying, okay, who is this for? Is this going to help somebody, like a past version of myself, get out of whatever issue they're in? Or am I just kind of trying to teach high-mindedly to other people who are academics or whatever that they're not actually using the information, right? It's getting it to gather it, but it's not actually like, this stuff could actually help me. I need to implement this, pushing towards that. I think that brings out a lot more why and feeling and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
My style. Okay, sounds good.
All right, dude. Good combo.
See you next time. All right, yeah, that's good.
See you, dude.